Hi, this is Dina, Stephanie, and Joanna from Truth Addicts. And we today are going to talk about purpose and why develop. So, yeah, we're human beings. I believe that we come here for a reason, and I think being human is a choice. It's easy to see that every human being is trying to grow, trying to become more. And what is the more that we can become? And why? It's a big question, and the answers are many in one way, but the answers are simple in one way. We're part of something vast. We're part of what can be called creation or the universe, or everything that is something that's not dead. We're part of what's alive. And the human being is kind of a battery. It's an energy pack that can feed things and be fed on. Part of what I'm thinking is that it's important to feed what's natural and worthy of creation. To me, it's important to feed the good. And to me, it's important that coarse things that are below the line of human don't feed on me.
I'm going to come in at this point and basically, when I think about living and purpose, I think it's probably on everybody's mind at some point in their life. We clearly have come from somewhere and we're going somewhere. And mostly we don't remember where we've come from. And maybe we wonder. Like Dina said, she believes that being human is a choice. And I do wonder whether we had that choice before we came. And if we did, then we maybe came to do something very specific, to pick up a purpose that would enhance the human race. And one question that I ask myself is, is this world a better place because I've been here, or isn't it? And if what I'm doing doesn't seem to be enhancing, maybe I could alter that and do something better. Because I do believe also that in development, that it's an attempt to have a bigger picture, to see oneself as part of creation, as part of the universe, as part of something much bigger than just this life. And I think that's a very fundamental question and answer and belief if one is to have a purpose and develop. And maybe it takes a long time to find that purpose because we're all unique, we're all different. So clearly we have a unique skill to offer to the world. We have unique abilities, we are unique. And everybody's purpose might be somewhat different. I mean, it has been referred to as like a sacred contract. Maybe we come in with a contract and then we forget it, and it takes time to find it. But one way that certainly I can trace through my life is to listen to my intuition. That I do believe that there's a voice within that kind of guides us. Some people might call it a guiding angel or the spirit, but that there is an inbuilt knowledge about what is right and what is wrong and what will enhance our life. And try to find those things, those people, those situations that bring you joy. and to develop your skills and develop what you believe is that kind of very basic ability that you can offer to the world. And then at the end of life, we are going, we not know where. And I do believe we do go somewhere. And what we do here, perhaps, is defining to where we go next. So, you know, when you say death to somebody, they kind of might go, you know, don't talk about that. But I see it as actually birth, especially being older and coming towards that exit. I believe I am going somewhere, and I feel quite joyful about it. And when you believe that, it takes away the fear, because a lot of people, I think, do fear death. I certainly did as a younger person, and it took me a while to get over that. I mean, I still don't know how I'm going to be on that day, but I'm working towards it. And I believe that I can take with me like the best of my character, certain qualities, certain energies that live with me or will live with me, that those I can take with me. I obviously can't take any of my material possessions. All that stays behind. And that, again, you know, it's so great to have them, but they'll probably serve somebody else or be discarded when I'm gone. But I do believe I can take my experiences and my energies and the qualities that I've developed. So also in this idea about development, to me, it's deliberately putting in place certain essences and qualities and energies that hopefully I can take with me.
Whenever I think about talking about purpose, I always have to start from feeling completely lost, which I have to say to you is exactly how I felt as a youth and a young adult. I felt so painfully frustrated with life and lost, because what I felt was that the greatness that I knew that was inside of me, I could never find a way to make my life match, or the actions that I portrayed, or I'd have these intense feelings inside of me of wanting to be good and wanting to be, I can't explain it. I think good is the closest I can come to. Better, good, reasonable. But if I took anything that I was given up till that point to live my life, either my education from school or, the things that I was taught through my religious avenues, or the things that I was taught from my mom and dad, it never really pushed me to that point where I thought I could match what was inside of me. And mostly I just felt lost. And it wasn't until the day and time that somebody who knew much more than me and had been on their journey for a lot longer could come along and say, you can either learn to create your life into something really beautiful, or you can live your life by default. And I thought, whoa, I thought I was creating my life. Like I wake up every day and I live. But what I realized, with much assistance and many other understandings, is that creating your life is an incredible art form. And there are many, many things to know. And so there's so many things I would love to say about it. Hopefully, this is why we're doing Truth Addicts. We're doing Truth Addicts so that we can share as many of those art forms for creating your life as possible. For me, the one thing I would say immediately was someone came along to me very early on in my spiritual journey and said, you know, all those mistakes that you've made in your life, you know, all those times that you let someone down or you let yourself down, or you just couldn't be everything you wanted to be. Well, you know what? It's not your fault. It's not your fault because the whole world is not actually the way that it was supposed to be. It was actually designed and created by God in a very different way. And mankind has slowly, after generation and generation and generation, moved us away from how things were naturally meant to be. And the more you come to know and understand that there's actually natural laws on the planet, there are intelligences in nature, and mostly we don't know them and we don't process them. And those things, once you learn how to be with them, not only do they offer you a great amount of settlement, but they also offer a great amount of nourishment. And it's just not personal to you. It's just not personal to you. It's not your fault. That doesn't mean that you don't pick yourself up right now, this minute, and inside of it not being right, choose to make a great life. But you just don't beat yourself up about it along the way. You forgive yourself immediately. You forgive your parents immediately. You forgive their parents immediately. And from a place of forgiveness and understanding that, yeah, things are really messed up on planet Earth right now for many, many, many reasons. But we can let all that go and we can find some really extraordinary things to champion in this life, to learn in this life, to practice in this life. And that goes a really long, long, long way for not feeling lost and hurt and frustrated and alone, especially alone. So I hope that's clear and not too evasive of, you know, some of the topics that I am skirting around a few topics. We will get into many things in depth here, I hope. But for now, that's sort of a starting location.
I'd like to pick up the thread of how the human was designed to be. Because I believe that every person that's ever been born actually comes here for their own enhancement and the enhancement of others, to use Joanna's words, and the enhancement of the universe and actually what has caused us to be. I think every human being actually came here to be one of them that helps, one of them that sets what's fine and clean and fair loose on earth. And I was talking before about being a kind of battery, that the human has power and they're able to feed things, help things along. And I wanted to make it clear that our process, what we think and what we do, is what causes something to be fed. And what we don't do is what starves something. And when I say something, there are many things. For example, qualities that add to character. And I will name some of the household qualities that a human can process and feed. And remember, these qualities were on earth before we got here, and these qualities will be on earth after we leave. So for example, every time you have kind thoughts and kind actions, you feed kindness itself. And when you enact it, because kindness can't enact itself, that's why it needs a human. It flows through you into life, into other people's lives, into animals' lives. I mean, kindness can flow many places. You feed the kindness and a residue of kindness is left inside you. You can feed courage. You can feed charity. You can feed having a good reasoning process, care, patience, defiance, forgiveness. And these things can come to be with you. You can be friends with these things as you feed them and as they feed you. And the decent things that we process and mosaic our character out of, they shine. You see people that shine. They shine with the quality of their process. They shine with the quality of their fine qualities. And they shine with what they say no to. Or they shine because they are able to say no to things. I don't mean, this is not a dogma. Because of course, there's so much, for example, judgment in the world that I know I'm going to be judgmental and critical one day. But I'm still going to know that I'm on the side of understanding and perception, and that that's what I want to be an anchor for. And I think it's important for the human to make these decisions.
This is so great. I'm so glad that you said this all, because you're really bringing to mind, you know, when one of the greatest ways to make the difference in your life, where you really start to feel like you're coming into your own, is doing exactly what you're saying. But for me, there was one critical point that I continually missed. And I'm just speaking about me personally. What I continually missed was that I didn't understand that the significance of doing something for kindness meant that it had to be on behalf of kindness itself. And so I would come along with my frustrated, insecure, egotistical self, and sure, I would perpetrate kindness, but I wanted everybody to know, because somehow I needed that to reflect back on me. I needed that to be part of my identity. And therefore, the actual kindness itself wasn't really interested, because at the end of the day, I wasn't really doing it for kindness. At the end of the day, I was doing it to feed an identity that I was desperate to make, that I was desperate to upgrade. And so it wasn't until somebody came along and said, hey, yes, you want to process care and consideration and hope and belief, but you don't do it from your ego or your insecurity, which are the same thing on the same bar. They're actually the exact same thing. It's just one is negatively aspected, loaded, the other one is positively loaded. They're the same thing with just two opposite ends. And I really didn't even know how to do that. I mean, I really just had to say, okay, I hear that concept. So now I need to understand that care is a God property. It's an actual living principle. It's an intelligence. It's an energy, however you want to call it, an angel. And I want to be with it. I want to process it. I want it to join my life, and I want to champion it, which is completely different than doing something nice so that I could feel good about myself, so that I could build an identity. And the thing that is so extraordinary about it is that these things are very real. They're very alive. They actually have their own intelligence and their own energy, which if you can manage to process them unto themselves without your own agenda, they will come to you. They will enhance your life, and you actually get to share their intelligence. It's quite extraordinary. And for me, I call it, whenever I'm trying to explain it or teach it, I call it the quantum leap. I call that aspect of development, of a spiritual journey, taking the quantum leap, where it really stops being about you and starts being on behalf of something greater, on behalf of something good, on behalf of God's world. And it really is a quantum leap. It's something that, it's a concept to think about and to take up and to try on. And it reveals itself to you slowly.
Yes. What you triggered in me reminded me that the human chooses the finer qualities. The lower qualities, because they're not natural, they're not actually endemic to the planet. They don't need to be chosen. They kind of come with their bad manners to feed. Tug at you. They tug at you with their bad manners. It's an interesting truth.
Yeah, there's a great saying that high energy or fine energy only, those at that angelic principle only comes when invited, specifically invited, and low energy or coarse energy will always invade. That's something that I call over to myself all the time. That's great.
Right, I think this is where our understanding of energies is really so important, because once one is aware that there are these lower energies and then there are the higher energies, we can become sensitive to which are which, because they will make us feel different. High energy will make us feel buoyant and joyful and happy, whereas the lower energies make us feel depressed and sad and all the kind of negative things you can think of. I don't want to mention them now. But yeah, to become sensitive to, you know, if you meet somebody, for example, you have a conversation, to try and distinguish, well, what were those qualities that passed between you? Were they the higher qualities or were they the lower? And, you know, if you go on a date and there is an exchange between you and the other person and you feel very good about it, then you'll probably have another date, right?
Yes.
So I think we all want to feel good.
Yes.
And to learn to discern between what makes you feel good and what doesn't, because I bet you that the good qualities, the high qualities, will make you feel good, and they have a healing aspect to them. So even if you're down and you connect to joy or you connect to inspiration, you can come out of that depression so quickly. I mean, just think of a moment when you feel a bit sad and then somebody phones you and gives you a bit of good news. You can change the way you feel very quickly, and it's all to do with energies. So I think on a practical note, as an exercise, to begin to think about your day, maybe at the end of a day, and try and work out what were the major qualities that you felt or that you processed that day, and how did they make you feel. And I bet you'll start really discerning which are good for you and maybe which are not so good. And like Dina said, it's important to say no to some of those that are not good to you, for you. Like maybe there's some kind of relationships in your life where the person that you're dealing with is draining you. So once you establish that, it's probably a good idea to limit that. I mean, I'm not saying completely to negate a relationship that in which maybe you're being helpful or doing something, but it's really important that first of all to look after yourself and to feel wholesome before you can help another person.
So thank you for joining Truth Addicts tonight. It's always our pleasure to get together and have a little bit of an informal conversation about things that are important to us. And hopefully they're useful. Feel free to put comments. We're always interested to hear what people have to say. And clearly there's much more to look into. This is just the beginning of what can be a whole journey into one's life purpose. So thank you to Dina and Joanna, and it's a pleasure. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.